What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gamers for Life podcast, where each and every Friday/Saturday discussing all things games. I'm one of your hosts, Terrell. With me is my co-host, Arthur Thomas. What's up, man?
I got COVID.
Oh no!
I got COVID again. I forget. I lost track of the strains. I remember there was the Delta Airlines one, and then one sounded like a Decepticon. And then of course, Corona Lime was the vanilla. So I don't know whichever one I got. All I know is the first time I had COVID, it was like a fever, like chills and everything, and then now it's just a cold, sniffles, runny nose. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you're feeling better, man. And then we got my man Church back again, killing it, man. You're on your way to be an official member, man.
at this point, back to back, I'm feeling like Drake at this point. So, but also, man, I'm sorry that you got COVID, and I hope you feel better soon. But you're a real trooper, man. You're down to record, and we're gonna make it the best of the show. So.
What can I sell? What can I say? Minor bodies are the best. They're huge antibodies. A doctor has never seen my antibodies. They're impressed by how my body dealt with Corona. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't seen a doctor. But yeah, the first 2 days I was like knocked out. Like I kind of got symptoms. I kind of had symptoms since like Tuesday. This is a Friday, by the way. And it was like kind of escalating. And then I called out of work. And at first I was like, oh, cool, I'm off work. Let me play some games. No, I was just in bed. I was just straight up in bed, for 2 days straight. And now I'm on the tail end of it.
You can still smell and taste, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I joke with the taste only because I was just drinking so much hot tea. I keep forgetting, the time at which tea is ready to when it doesn't burn your tongue. Yeah. So I can taste, just not the very tip of my tongue because I got burnt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My wife, she got COVID around the COVID time, and she couldn't taste for about almost 2 years. So I'm glad you're not dealing with that. That's the OG COVID though. That's the one. That's the hard hitting one. This one's a little more tamer, luckily. But yeah,
for almost 2 years. Damn.
Yeah. Everything tasted like charcoal or smoke or something. It was crazy. I was like, "What the fudge?" Yeah,
that sucks.
Either. Yeah, it was wild. But lately she got it back.
I didn't realize. I should have. I mean, I think he has taste buds back now. But I got COVID because my brother-in-law was kind of patient zero.
Yeah.
But yeah, he lost his taste too.
Dang. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. Well, if you're joining us, hello. Be sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube for Gamers for Life. Definitely would appreciate that. We've got some great videos on there. And be sure to check out everything that Arthur does when it comes to the streams via Twitch, as he does every now and again. Our audio, of course, for the podcast is going to be available however you listen to your podcast. So whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what have you, we are there. So be sure to follow however you do that, listening to us. And here at the Gamers for Life podcast, we read, and of course, everything else as far as Gamers for Life, go to linktree.com/Gamers for Life, the number 4 life. And here at the Gamers for Life podcast, we read the news where you can listen to what you choose by clicking on the links of the time code within the description of the episode. I've made a point for 2023 to actually do it every single episode, so be sure to do that. So you can check out the specific segment that you want, or you can just hang out with us here at the Gamers for Life podcast. And we got a couple things here on the docket, but just to get started with the most one of the biggest things in I guess in today, as far as being talked about, is The Last of Us on HBO. And episode 2 dropped last Sunday. Let's throw it to Church first. What were your thoughts on episode 2, man?
Episode 2, I enjoyed it. It was pretty intense. We finally got to see some creatures in the episode, and I was like, we're about to see where all this budget went to. Like, how good? What's the CGI was going to look like? I enjoyed it. I love the fact. During their encounter, there was like a stealth element, just like the video game too. Some more, homages to the players that enjoy the series as well. And the creatures look kind of terrifying. Yeah. At the same time, I think it's progressing the story very nicely. And the way, the main character, he has the M16. He didn't get that gun that early in the game in the beginning, but
Right.
it's a TV show, right? We could amp it up a little bit more, right?
Right.
we gotta be entertained. So, but he still was everything The Last of Us I thought it was gonna be. It was still suspenseful. It was true to the game. And I just I'm enjoying the ride thus far. So those are my initial impressions.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely a switch up from episode 2 from the Halo TV show, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, what the fuck is this shit? Arthur, what were your did you get a chance to check out episode 2 for last week?
I'll say, seeing how my first impressions include me watching this time, much better than episode 1. I didn't watch it.
Okay.
But yeah, I really liked it. I like that they're going for, I get the feel they're just making for a good show, because I feel like sometimes like there's like this need where like it panders too much or it's doing its own thing. Like I feel like sometimes when there's adaptation, they don't know what the goals are.
Sure.
Like for example, like Halo, what was their goal? No idea.
Yeah. Just to do whatever they wanted to do, which didn't work out.
Yeah.
To destroy Halo, bro. That
was their goal.
Sacrifice the lamb.
Right.
People are like, no, Henry Cavill's leaving The Witcher. Everyone's upset. Everyone's like, the main guy left Halo. Okay.
Yeah, it's like good.
But with this, there's definitely like homages, but it's not like the needle hasn't, for me, kicked over to, in a good way, has not kicked over to pandering yet. Whereas like, look at that, you see that? Oh, look at that, you know that thing? Look at it. Whereas like I feel like Star Wars does that a lot. Like, hey, there was that thing that one time in a movie 20 years ago. Let's make a 20-minute scene about it. Whereas this show,
you're referring to Force Awakens.
I was referring to anything.
I feel like that was like a Star Wars reunion.
I don't like specifically what I was referring to was in one of the Disney movies, the Disney Star Wars movies. There were like dice, and everyone was like, "Oh, dice!" And I'm like, "I don't know what are they? What is this?" I'm sure it's going to show up in the Disney store the next day the movie aired or whatever. but what I'm saying is like, again, so far 2 episodes in, it's a good balance of homages to the source material. Sticking to the source material, but also just making a good show. Like, yes, good adaptation, but it's entertaining. Whereas, like Halo, very early on, we were like, okay, they're like, cool, we saw some things, but I don't know if this is good. I don't get that feeling.
We were both kind of rubbing our heads. We were like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then by episode 5, we're like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, this is garbage. Because by episode 5, by episode 5, we're like, hey, there's that thing. Oh, I'm just like, yeah, but this is bad. Right. I did like how in this episode, again, I watched the playthrough, but I really don't remember like the first, let's say, 2 hours of the game. I remember the prologue, which was, shown in episode 1, the show. But like how we went to Jakarta, and we saw kind of like the sciencey stuff behind the scenes, which I like. But again, that kind of me catching up for episode 1, watching episode 2. I like it. I like the clickers because this was the first time we saw the clickers. They're definitely good. They're not too cartoony. It's great CGI. And I'm digging Ellie and Joel. I know that bond isn't just there yet because we're not there yet early in episode 2, but I'm digging them. I'm digging the characters. I'm digging the cast. Pedro's doing great. The actress from Game of Thrones is doing great. I'm loving it.
So cool. I mean, forget you, Arthur. I do have those dice that you're talking about in Star Wars that you're referring to. I have them hanging in my car. I have to have them.
I'm able. It's as weird as I am with like subliminal ads when it comes to food and drinks. Merchandise is where I'm able to separate that line, where it's like that scene in that movie existed only to be like at a store coming to you. This is what gave me that vibe.
Oh yeah, it was definitely something they needed to sell at Disneyland at some point.
Yeah,
and I bought it because they were great to have, man. But to your point,
works.
It's not pandering in the episode. It's kind of like tastefully done throughout.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I mean, I feel like there is, and maybe because I haven't played Last of Us 2, right? But there is like a controversial thing.
Oh, we're definitely gonna get to that.
Okay. But hopefully it's what I'm referring to, but it's okay. Well, we'll see what it is.
Yeah. Let me I wanted to give my 2 cents on the episode as well before we dig into that, which we absolutely will.
Oh, I'm talking about the episode, something that happened in the episode.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's like it's the horde, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, was that what you were talking about?
No. I was just gonna get my impressions on. No, I thought you were referring to the controversial things regarding the Last of Us 2. I thought you were talking about season 2. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because but I mean, just like the original game didn't have a horde mechanic, right?
I don't remember one. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I don't remember seeing a huge horde of zombies. To your point, yeah.
Yeah, well, they start running at you. I guess what's that motorcycle game that came out on PlayStation?
Days Gone. I was thinking that too. I was thinking Days Gone.
Yeah. I mean, I love a horde in a TV show, so I think they took some liberties there. I'm all for it because zombies and hordes. That's what I need, man. It's my bread and butter.
Yeah, it's like, why don't we just up the ante just a little bit? Yeah, to your point.
Man.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, definitely that's definitely not something really in the game, and it's like, hey, why the hell not? Especially if it's done right. But yeah, I liked episode 2 as well. It seemed like this was Neil Druckmann's directorial debut, because someone else directed the first episode, and it seems like Neil Druckmann himself directed this one. So I thought that was really interesting. I saw a lot of different shots that were identical to the game, which I thought was really clever. And I thought he did a really good job with the direction of the episode. Like you said, we talked about the clickers, obviously the sounds and everything. Those same folks from the games, did the same voiceover for the show, and it sounded terrifying. Everything looks fantastic too. So one of the things that I thought was really cool as far as the relationship between Ellie and Joel, this seemed to be the first episode where Ellie had a moment where he really had to listen and trust Joel, because throughout this, because there's still this separation, right? As far as just like, fuck you, like who the fuck are you? And then once it is in those clickers, he was like silent, like and then it's kind of like listening to him as far as what to do. They kind of had that Jurassic Park in the kitchen moment where they're in that block and the clicker's going around. So I thought it was shot really well. There was a really weird I don't know if it might have been just me, but there's kind of like this weird, like blurry thing that happened after he killed the last clicker. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It was like this weird blur, but I was just like, what's happening right now? But other than that, yeah, I really like it. Like, again, it's online, or it's on board with the show. And to your point, Arthur, I did like the Jakarta thing as well, because we were mentioning that. And then just kind of like proof of concept as far as like, this shouldn't be in humans. It's in humans. Oh shit. So I do like that they're still sticking with that scientific nature. I don't remember in the game when Tess, obviously she got left because, because she was bit. So like, I remember that part, but I don't remember her blowing that area up. Did she do that in the game?
No, because there wasn't a horde, right?
Yeah.
I think they left her in an apartment, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was like some military force was trying to get her or like some creatures, but it was not as a spectacle as the finale of this episode,
right?
Which was gross. Some of the scenes, right? It was truly like gross and terrifying when it happened. But yeah, I don't remember that in the game.
Yeah, because I thought, to your point, I thought it was some type of a military folks that were like, they're going, and she's like, go or whatever, and I thought that's what was happening. But so another part of this fun Last of Us stuff is they greenlit season 2 of The Last of Us 2, which is exciting and terrifying at the same time, because for those of you who are not familiar with, say, The Last of Us 2, there is a lot of controversy with that game, especially as far as how the game is played, with the character of Abby. And I have a few comments on Instagram. I love like just seeing the comments, because it's like, what are the people saying? So they had
the comment section is great. I like when people just post gifs, just a guy eating popcorn. I'm only here for the comments. Like,
yeah, I have a few I screenshotted that I wanted to read off here. just to kind of to check the temperature for some of these folks, and then we can kind of talk about what our thoughts are around the, if they did, well, they are going to do it, season 2 of Last of Us on HBO. But one person said, Dave Bautista's Abby, please. Another person said,
Sorry.
One guy said they should have done seasons before the events in between the first and second game. You can do lots of cool stuff. I said that's an interesting point. One person said, I hope instead of finding a buff girl to play Abby, they just hire The Rock and give him a wig. And then there's one person that says, man, this is going to be tough. Another person said, well, that ruins any chance of me watching the show, which is like eye rolling, like shut the fuck up. Like what happens, like don't be that guy. Another person says, I feel like part 2 coverage will have to take 2 seasons, considering part 2 is twice as long as the first one. I think they can cut some stuff up. One person says justice for Joel. Another person says, I won't watch season 2 if it doesn't have Pedro Pascal. It'll have him until he's dead.
Don't forget the power of flashbacks.
Right, exactly. And then someone said, create a better Last of Us 2 story. Which is good.
Just do what they did for Full Metal. Just make your own ending, and then maybe come back and do Brotherhood and do like the actual source material ending.
Good old Roiland.
But either way, okay.
I'm sorry. Let me start off because did
you play the game?
Yes, I played the game. But I wanted to, because I don't think they have to change the story, but I think they have to change how they can't do a 1-to-1 ratio. They have to approach it in a very different manner, literally, because I feel like they have to do that in order for the story to really make sense. Because I actually liked how the story was, but the as far as the gameplay component, I was very frustrated. Right, I didn't have an issue with Joel dying, which was very heartbreaking. But my issue was obviously the doing a lot of the same stuff twice with one person that I didn't want to be a part of. Right, I think Abby is a very good character, and I think because someone was saying in the comments as far as like, this like corny revenge thing. I'm like, I don't think it's corny at all. If you know what happened, like if you were watching, like, Joel killed the doctor, instead of giving Ellie off. Sorry, spoilers for those who are listening. I'll put it in the description. But I think it could be done really well. I would like to see them. I would like to see a few episodes more of them with Joel's brother, because in Last of Us Part 2, he's trying to find his brother because he's like, I don't know where my brother is. And his brother is trying to find and kill Abby because once he found out that Joel died, like he goes on a mission to try to take down Abby. So that's like another part of it as well. So I think kind of having episodes where like he's like involved or whatnot. And then obviously Ellie is like a badass, because he learned everything from Joel. She's very aware with everything, learned everything from him. And she's kicking ass. And Last of Us Part 2 is a very much more violent game than the first as well. So like sometimes almost unnecessarily, but it is because of the cult. Like, for those of you who've watched it, there's guys like disemboweling people because of their stuff and whatnot. So there's going to be a lot of crazy violence in this. But as from a story perspective, I think they can do it, but I don't think it will fail, in my opinion, if they do it via 1-to-1 ratio. They can't. Like, they just can't. You know what I mean? Like, I think they can have episodes where, say there's an episode with Abby, but they can't do it mirrored exactly. Because there's a really powerful moment to me in the second game where you finally get to the point where it's that movie theater scene where they do end up colliding with each other, and you start to understand why Abby is awful, right? You realize, like, and then that tension of Ellie, like, I'm gonna fucking kill this bitch, you know what I mean? And they're like fighting in that theater. I'm like, this is a great part of the game, and I think that I would love for that to be executed just as well, if not better, on the HBO show. But I'm sorry, Arthur, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
No, my thing was that you're right, is because also like the pacing of the game, because I would say because Church, you're not too, because with Last of Us 2, because I know you're not too familiar with it.
I mean, I know the story of Last of Us 2. I just didn't play the game.
Yeah, because for me, like the pacing of it is like, hey, this huge thing just happened. Guess what? She's a character. And like there's like montages of so many people just like walking off cliffs. Like
Metal Gear Solid 2 all over again.
like yeah. So yeah, you're right. So like when Joe and I were talking about, like, for example, when Last of Us 2 was up for just every game award it could have been nominated for. Did it have a bird? Oh, best animal artistic blah. I'm just like, whatever it could have been nominated for, it was nominated for. And one of the things I thought it didn't deserve, it was like, I couldn't think of the name of the award, Joe, but it was like editing or pacing or something like that, or like narrative direction. When I say, like, it just was like synonymous with editing or something like that. And like I said, for me, like I said, if you do 1-to-1, the flashback upon flashback and order of it, it's not great. And clearly with the way it was perceived, but we know that talent that Neil does have the narrative talent with what we've seen for the first game and how we're seeing so far in the adaptation 2 episodes in. I think still a lot of people there's gonna be the internet's still gonna internet. My heart preemptively goes out for who's ever gonna be casted as Abby. The hate's gonna come. The threats are gonna fly. It's the nature of the beast that is internet. But I think that pacing, or like I said, narrative direction, can be done differently than that like main character swap and like time skipping thing we saw. That being said, the fact that face value this did get greenlit for season 2, I'm happy about that. I'm happy at the face value that we're 2 episodes in. We're getting like thumbs up across the board versus again 2 episodes into Halo. People are like, episode 1, yeah, there was a cool fight. Episode 2, ooh, the helmet's just gonna stay off. Okay. So upon again with face value, I'm glad HBO's back in this, which is weird because HBO just came off the tail end of just canceling everything. Sorry, Batgirl. But again, as much as I know, like Last of Us 2, I'm happy about this news.
Cool. What are your thoughts, George?
Yeah, so it's kind of cool that they got like a second season. I'm not a big fan of The Last of Us 2, the video game. Narratively, they just, when they announced Last of Us Part 2, there was nothing about the gameplay that I was excited to play. It didn't seem like we're innovating the game anywhere. It was like a hide behind cover, shoot some enemies, it's not taking it to the next level. So what was exciting for me was the story, the narrative that I wanted to see. And they made a decision to go in a different direction and just take out one of my characters that I love. And I was like, I just didn't care about the story anymore. It just, you left the game on a cliffhanger and you guys decided to go a different way. There were parts in Last of Us 2, especially the flashback scenes, when you're in the museum with like Ellie and Joel. Yeah. Like if you would have put that in the front of the game and had more time with Joel, I think it would have worked more. It would have been presented better, if you just shifted stuff out of order in the video game. And that's what they can do for season 2, to try to make it more exciting. But for me, I don't really have a connection to Ellie as a character on screen yet. Really? I'm not invested in their relationship yet. So for me, season 2 really has to win me over with Ellie, because I love Pedro as my, and if he's no longer there, like the rest of the cast has to be so strong that the season 2 can really carry it. Because Pedro's like, he's a phenomenal actor. Like he's carrying a lot of the scenes. It's what people are going to gravitate to. So Ellie's going to have her moment in the shine, where you're going to have to like the actress that's playing her. And in this season, if you're just going to go straight into season 2, which is The Last of Us Part 2, it's very risky. Yeah. And it's doing so well. So why end it in 2 seasons potentially? I'm more into one of the comments that you mentioned before. Why not just stretch it out a little bit? Give us more time with Ellie and Joel. I think narratively, it's going to hit the audience, tough. I think it's good. It's like kind of good writing, it's good drama, when it happens. But that's kind of how I feel about it. It still needs to win me over for season 2 for that big of a change. Because since I already know what's going to happen, because I don't care about Abby. I still don't care about Abby.
No, and you're not alone. There's a lot of people that feel the same way. And I think you make some good points too, as far as, a like they really have to sell us on Ellie in general, as far as for her to, especially for her to take a lead, for the second season. I think that's a really good point. And they really have to execute that for this season, because I think by the end of this season, if their chemistry isn't, if we don't feel like they are like, man, like they're like two peas in a pod, like it's going to be pretty concerning, I think, for the second season. I think that they're going to set themselves up for failure. So I definitely agree with that. I think it's funny because I guess I'm on the opposite of this side of the spectrum. I didn't mind, like, it was a shock value, but I didn't mind Joel dying at the second season, just because I feel like there was a lot of things that were premeditated from the first, and then from the beginning of the second game. As far as for what he did, I felt like he knew he was going to, that people were going to come after him sooner or later, because of the decision that he made.
Real quick, if you don't mind, it's his death didn't bother me. I think it happened very quickly. I think you need to lead up to it better. What bothered me was the whole storyline about the cure that completely dropped off in the first game, right? It just became a different story. It's about revenge. It's not even about the cure. The big revelations of like Joel telling Ellie, like, yo, I did this in order to save you. What you have in the game, in the flashback, you have that moment. What bothered me is like those key story elements, you just kind of toss them aside and be like, I went this way. So him dying, he can die. It's just that's my problem with the story for Last of Us 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was the cliffhanger, man. For 5 years we waited, like, yo.
and I guess I didn't mind it too, because he made a selfish decision of wanting to have this relationship with her versus her being an advocate to potentially save the world. With the cure thing, he's like, well, I can't, and he made that self decision. And obviously in the game, it's just like, what the fuck, what I mean? So yeah, I think that was a strong story, and definitely was another risk as far as like, well, let's throw that out the window. Let's focus on this. So, and I think one of I really like what you said too, as far as the gameplay. There wasn't really anything renovating. I think there was a couple of new, like maybe weapons or whatnot, but as far as the overall gameplay, wasn't anything a whole lot new. It was more so a whole lot story. I think the combat might have been a little smoother, but it wasn't anything so super different. So it was literally part 2. It was literally continuing.
It wasn't better than like Gears of War, like
exactly
shooting. Yeah. Which is like, you play that and go into like Last of Us, it's like, yo, can you improve on what Gears does phenomenally already, So
what I would like to see, this is my challenge for Neil Druckmann. I know you probably won't watch this, but my challenge for him is to have, when he does Last of Us Season 2, to have it where people actually start to like and or feel sympathetic for Abby. And I think that to me, that was the beauty of the story for part 2, because in the beginning, obviously, I didn't give a fuck about Abby. I'm like, who the fuck is this bitch? But then later in the game, you feel, you kind of understand, what's, why she feels the way that she does. So when it flips back, and everything else back to Ellie, you understand this antagonist and how personal everything is, and I love that fight on the beach too. But if he can execute where, right now we have all these gamers, right? And it's funny too, because this is going to be marketed towards everybody, right? So I always feel like there's this bubble, that we all have where us as gamers, we're like, we're tracking everything from what we've played and everything, and we already have our decisions on how we feel about certain things. And so I'm curious to see how people feel that did not play the game. You know what I mean? So if we have people that feel the same way or similarly to us gamers, I think that's an even bigger issue with the story. So I think if Druckmann can make it in a way where there is a sense of understanding in Abby, where people actually like Abby more so in the show than the game, I think that would be a huge achievement.
I think they should just do it chronologically, like rather than the time jumps, like, because that was another thing too, because that's the other thing too, is like with this adaptation, we know what's coming. So for me, this isn't apples to apples, but like, I know a lot of people didn't watch it. I loved it. The Dark Crystal prequel series that was on Netflix. The old school Jim Henson movie, The Dark Crystal. That's like way different than the Muppets. But there's this big climax, that's happening this season because the spoiler, there's no second season, but this show's going to end with like a mass genocide or a murder of some kind. There's all this. The main characters are this race of people that do not exist. So it's coming. Versus like, but because it was built up and it leads to it, and it was done so well. Versus like if we do it kind of in the game, if we do in the show the way it was in the game, if that happens like in episode 3, that's way too soon. You know what I mean? That needs to be like, they need to be drawn out. The other thing too is we were talking about like how the challenge for this season is the relationship of Ellie and Joel. So it's like in games the word is like immersion, but like in shows the word's invested, and that's for all audiences, even if they haven't played the game. Like an audience member that hasn't played the game needs to be invested in Joel and Ellie. And if it ends with like, hey, that's my buddy guy, I'm not your friend buddy kind of vibe, that's not good.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the challenge, because do you spend more time with Pedro as centerpiece for this season, or you spend a lot more time with Ellie making sure
Dave Bautista
making sure the audience like her for season 2. And Gerald, to your point, if he can pull out the audience liking Abby, which is an uphill battle, not only because for gamers, but because of the two mediums, right? You spending hours playing with Abby, 6-8 hours, at a time, maybe even longer, 20 hours, as opposed to I gotta like make you like this character in an hour, that's a challenge in itself. And I feel like they're going to pull on some emotional, heartstrings. I think they're going to change their introduction a little bit more than the game, because they have to make you care about it as soon as possible. Well, the story doesn't work, and they have to figure something out.
Exactly. So let's say there's like 14 episodes. Let's say there's 14 episodes in the season. Just spitballing. Sure. Let's say there's 14 episodes in a season. That scene, like if they build up, like you relate to you relate to Abby more, and then boom, they meet, golf club, they go golfing. Let's say of a 14 episode season, episode 9 to 10, and then the remainder is the last act of the game of Ellie catching up to Abby. But again, I didn't play the game. I didn't see a full playthrough, so I don't know how long that is in the game. But that's what I'm saying is, like, again, if they do this like episode 3 or 4, it's there's no way people are to come back and be like, oh, now I feel bad for her.
They're gonna kill him in the first episode of season 1. It's just too much of shocking. The ratings will go crazy. It's a kill him in the first episode. Joel's gonna die, man.
Oh man, that would destroy the show. You make a really good point, Arthur. I think if they have a 10 episode season, it should happen episode like 6, maybe. I don't mind the time jumps, but it has to be done right. Like, because they're doing time jumps right now. This episode of Jakarta, right? But I think how they do it needs to flow better, right? You know what I'm saying? So, and then as far as the pacing, and like you said, the investment is really critical. Obviously it's critical now, but for season 2, especially critical, especially with this Ellie character and everything. I would like for them to kind of dig in more with this antagonist, the antagonist also, as far as like, like have some episodes, like have an episode or two, like more so about like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Because in the game, it's more so, it's a game, so it's one of those things where like, whoa, that guy's fucking crazy, and then later you kind of figure out kind of like what's the deal. So I think they have a lot to work with, but it's gonna be a big feat. It's gonna be a big feat, definitely. So
can I say one more thing on this season? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, the one thing I do want to shot for shot, frame by frame, is when there's that, and this is for season 1, episode 1, sorry, first game, shot for shot, when there's that time skip and it's snowing and there's this cute little bunny rabbit. I want that arrow and that rabbit shot for shot, frame by frame. That's what I want.
He very well might. It's very feasible. So sticking with Neil Druckmann, I wanted to go to the next topic as far as for Naughty Dog being done with Uncharted. There's a little snippet here I wanted to read, and then we can just talk about it. So it says here, this is according to IGN, it says in an interview with BuzzFeed, Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann confidently said that the studio is moving on from Uncharted series, saying Uncharted was insanely successful. Uncharted 4 was one of 4 best-selling games, and we're able to put our final brushstroke on that story and say that we are done. It's interesting. I mean, it's weird because on one side of the spectrum, I guess the story is kind of over, right? When it comes to the Uncharted series.
Not to cut it off, but to fill me in, I've only seen like walkthroughs of 1 and 2. So for does the game or does Nathan Drake's story like end, whether or not he like dies or not, but like was there closure or was there like a spin-off thing?
For sure there was, right? It's funny. I didn't get to play the 4th one, but I know it was like Drake's End.
I did play the 4th one. Actually, that's like the first PlayStation game I played after like taking a hiatus from gaming for like 10 years. So I came back to Uncharted. 4th one. It did end. It had like a definitive conclusion, I guess so. You know, saw people from previous games, and it just kind of ended on the note it did. I mean, he didn't die or anything.
I was like, you can spoil it. Like, was it? I was gonna say, did he die, or was it like a walk off into the sunset sort of thing?
I mean, he found like an ultimate treasure with his brother that they've been hunting since he was a kid. It didn't go the way they did, but they made out with some millions of dollars, and he was able to have like a house on the beach with his wife. And there was it alluded that they had a kid on the way, so to speak. So we're like,
and then with like an epilogue thing. That's
perfect trick.
Yeah, but they could have made another game, right? But it wasn't like a cliffhanger. But I think, since the movie came out and it didn't do too well for Sony, I think they're just gonna try to focus on IPs that they can turn into films at that point. So
Destiny for $5 billion.
Destiny movie would be dope, bro.
If they did it right. If they did it right, definitely.
I mean, that's for everything.
Yes, but we don't think the purchase was done right to begin with. Because Bungie's like, yo, we have control of everything, and they're not going to control us. We're going to do what we do.
Dude.
And it's like, okay, why'd you buy them?
I'm just thinking, like, if Sony paid more for Bungie than Disney paid for Star Wars, we're paying. But then again, George Lucas was like, I want fans to stop harassing me about this franchise. Take it off my chest.
He sold that mad low, bro. George Lucas was like, fuck this. I don't give a fuck.
Deuces. I'm out.
Like,
get rid of it.
Yeah, Star Wars was one of the biggest franchises like ever. So it's just like he could have got way more than that, but he didn't give a fuck, which I thought was
these
hilarious.
nerds over here like, you see in Tatooine because their sons. I was like, dude, I made a samurai movie in space. Get over it.
He's like, I can do taxes on $4 billion, but nothing more.
Yeah.
But sticking on the Naughty Dog Uncharted. I mean, I think for this, I guess it's kind of bittersweet because on one side of the spectrum, Uncharted was a very it was one of those mascots for Sony, right? Like when you think of Sony, you think of PlayStation, PS3 and on, you think of Uncharted, and that's one less mascot for PlayStation. So it's just like, I don't think PlayStation's having an identity crisis. I did before, but it's one less component or strong symbol to just the representation of the console, and so I'm not too for me I'm not mad that they're done with it. I'm just curious what's gonna be a signature game that you can be like, oh yeah, I gotta get this on PlayStation. Like
I have an idea. Sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say, because I know that, like I said, I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad to hear that ended with like a Into the Sunset episode. Christian Bale, toasting Michael Caine over there.
Mm-hmm.
Not to tend it 2 months, but I'm still curious to like not the rumor, but that Sony did buy the domain or the patent or the trademark. I forget the exact legal verbiage for Sunset Overdrive. I know this is an apple to apples, but if like in the same year, we hear that, it's not like nail in the coffin, more just like the doors close, like, kind of any the Godfather, the door slowly closes on Uncharted. If Sony were to like bust out with like Sunset Overdrive or something as an Xbox guy, I would love that. But again, as someone who didn't have really a dog in this fight or experiencing it, I'm not like shocked by it, but it just does suck. Like another good franchise or IP, like the mascot is like, what else could we do?
Yeah, man. It would be cool if like Sony gave the Sunset Overdrive that Insomniac had and gave it back to Naughty Dog so they can make another game. That would be cool. I'll be down for it. But like, yeah, it just sucks, man, because I love Sucker Punch did this early in the year. They're not making any more Sly Koopas. They said they were done with it, right?
No, I love Sly Cooper.
Naughty Dog, old boys.
Jack and Daxter for how long? I know. So
yes, I feel you, brother. Yeah,
that was the first thing you and Joel talked about in the chat. Jack, what about Jack? Where's Daxter?
Yeah, no, man. I want Jack. Jack was so cool.
They brought back Ratchet and Clank, which was good.
Yeah,
they did. That's true. That's true.
Well, I mean, I would argue Ratchet and Clank never went anywhere, man. They had like 3 games on the PS3. They just kind of been consistently releasing it, which is kind of cool. I don't know what they would do. I'm excited to see a new IP from Naughty Dog outside of The Last of Us. I just hope that it's good. It resonates with people. I'm just worried that they're trying to make the Last of Us 3, Last of Us like online playing game, and there's just become a studio that's just like making online content to support that live service they're trying to get off.
Oh man, they're doing that right
now. It seems
to
be Sony's like agenda, right? They got like 10 of those like live service games on the dock, so they're trying to get going, bro.
That's a good. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I totally forgot about that. Yeah, they're working on a Last of Us 2 multiplayer right now, and I have no idea how to feel about it. And they said it's one of the most ambitious things. So I mean,
vision.
yeah, like I'm like, look, I've heard all of these words before, and I've been disappointed 90% of the time. So what does that fucking mean? So it's like if it is as good as they would want it to be, then that would be really interesting. But I'm just like, guys, like, because like Uncharted's multiplayer was like, it was fun for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was just like. It was a gray area where no one asked for it. It was surprisingly good, but a horn I'll always toot. Mass Effect did something similar. Was again a massive RPG, a multi-series RPG. A multiplayer came out and no one asked for, but because they sort of kind of with literally single-digit percentage stats linked it to the story, it creates some incentive.
Oh my god, massive! What was it? Mass Effect 3
multiplayer?
Mass Effect 3
incredible, had
fucking incredible. That was one of the best multiplayers ever. I played with my ASMs and store manager on that shit for like mad long, bro. When I was running the GameStop, that was
had no business being that good. Like, but what? I mean, when I hear it's like again when we hear like this like online service and you're like it's Naughty Dog, please stay in your lane, please.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about that multiplayer shit, but and then I feel like one thing that I think that's been positive, or actually, I mean, one, I'm just calling this out specifically, but as far as like I'm glad that the show is doing well for HBO. That they're working on season 2, which we already talked about. But the game, I'm curious how this is, like you said, Church, from the last episode. How is this going to affect Last of Us Part 3? What I mean? Like, how, as far as the direction, and I'm wondering, part of me wonders how much do they listen to the fans? Like, how much does Neil Druckmann actually listen to the fans, or is he just one of those guys that's like, look, this is what I made, this is what I'm gonna do? Like, I wonder how receptive he is to listening to how people feel about Abby, because I think I really feel like that would positively impact season 2. And then and I know already this is already changing his mind on how he wants part 3 to be, because he already said something about he wants there to be less cinematics for part 3, which I find to be interesting. So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, with all of this stuff, like, what is part 3 gonna look like? You know what I mean? So yeah.
I think I'll say one thing to potentially transition onto Shuri got coming up next, but an issue with Abby is an issue. I feel like another issue with Abby, and sort of transition. Abby was the start, or at least the big thrusted into something we started to see a lot more, which is like, I would argue, unlikable main characters, where like it's the main character, but the game is like forcing you to like this person. Like, look, like this person. I'm just like, no, I don't want to like her. And like, again, the half transition into some of the reviews I've been seeing, the gameplay I've been seeing, is in terms of like a main character not being likable. Again, sticking with Sony here, we're seeing that with Forspoken that just dropped.
Yeah. I guess I like your segue. I just wanted to comment on what you said.
Oh, good.
that was a good segue, though.
Joe, if you want to flip the script, I do.
I guess
we saw the video montage. It was like Abby pets the dog and Ellie kills dogs. You know, they do all these things to try to get you to like Abby more than Ellie.
That's hilarious. No, but yeah, I guess I would argue that, you know, Abby was an antagonist, you know, and you're starting off trying to understand this antagonist character versus, you know, Ellie and then being a protagonist. So I thought, you know, like, whether she's going to be likable or not definitely was a huge risk take. Because I mean, there's a lot of different stories and movies where it's like, I don't fucking like this person, you know, like, but I think that is going to, when it comes to games, sometimes you can, you know, very risky. Obviously, we talked about how much people don't like Abby, but it's even worse for film. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a character on screen that you do not like, I mean, people just stop watching. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those things where it's like, well, I have to see what happens, right? So I have to play so I can get that platinum. Like, no, like, people aren't going to do it. So very risky. But no, you are right as far as you know, when it comes to Forspoken. I think definitely more so the game is just for what we said in prior episodes, Arthur. There was an episode we talked about Forspoken as far as it being an empty world, you know, and I feel like it pretty much didn't change a whole lot. I mean, if we're talking about the reviews,
I can't think of one comment we said that was wrong about it.
Yeah, and then also as a side note, glad no one picked that for the fantasy draft. So dude, good job, guys. Because goddamn,
I was gonna say it's like Sony has an exclusive AAA coming out and no one grabbed it. We're all like, we know it's coming.
Yeah, we know it's gonna be dog shit.
I had the feeling it was gonna be bad because the marketing for the game, I kept seeing it over and over and everything I do. I was just like, yo, they're really marketing this game. They wanted to be successful. And like after getting your hands on the demo, I was just like, it sucks because I love that team at Square Enix because I like Final Fantasy 15, right? I played the controversial game. I played it like a couple years after release where they had the Royal Edition where they fixed everything and tried to make it better. I love the engine. So I'm like, yo, I can see the engines in the game. I love the Luminous engine, I guess what they call it. But when playing the demo, it's just so grainy. It does not look smooth. Which is so weird. Like because you like, what's the difference between juxtaposing that Forspoken to like a God of War game? Like it's the same hardware. Like, how do we end up here? Like, what's going on here? Like, we know what graphics can be. It's just, and Forspoken just looked rough. Go ahead,
to go what you're saying in terms of looks. Do you remember how this game was first announced? This was the live tech demo of Unreal Engine 5. Right. This was the game. This was the game that showed the world Unreal Engine 5 is here. And they were like, look at that rock. You see that rock? 10 trillion pixels in that rock. That's the most pixels in a rock in the history of technology, in the history of our species. And this is the game that we got. Remember, that game was debuted at looking pretty. So when that demo came out and it was like unplayable, it looked bad, all my red flags went off. I'm like, hold up. Yeah. Even before we even knew anything about story, the only thing we knew about this game is it was going to look amazing. That's all we knew. That's how it was. Again, and then it wasn't like a Sony tech thing. It was like, again, Unreal Engine 5. And Gerald and this was I was toying this game early on. I was like, Gerald, the potential for gaming, like we always say, it's like when there's like peaks and plateaus with technology jumps. This game was debuted at the next peak, and instead of plateauing, it went down. So,
You're right.
I don't know.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's almost like a whole different team worked on that specifically for the demo, and then the actual team for the game was a completely different set of folks.
I know the joke is now you can never trust cinematic trailers. Can we no longer trust a tech demo for an independent company?
Yeah, it's like the E3 thing, right? As far as like the gameplay or whatever, where like back in the day that was all made like PC.
Yeah. Like, you remember how again, that game was debuted with that trailer, and then all of a sudden, for me, I mean, again, to kind of connect with my thing about Abby, is this new trend, and we're seeing a lot in shows too. I don't want to go too much of the tangent. We'll just keep in the gaming world of just making corny, cringy, unlikable characters with the real redemption arc. Like I've seen some of this stuff, so I haven't seen the game start to finish, but the snippets I've seen, I kind of see where people are coming from, where it's like something that Joel, I talk about, Church, we heard us mention, the phrase lizard people. Like when E3 was like, wow, that looks really good. Oh no, let's go revive John. You know what I mean? And so for me, when I see that it went from a huge tech demo, went from a huge a tech launch trailer to that weird story trailer to the word demo, I was like, I'm not putting this on my draft. No way.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. I guess I disagree with you on it being a 1-to-1 equal thing as far as just characters that are unlikable. I think that's. I mean, like obviously that's.
Not on 1-to-1, but just sort of half link my transition. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but that does happen. Definitely, that does happen with a lot of characters. I am the very strange gamer story guy who was open to Abby, but obviously I know a lot of people weren't. As far as for her as a character, I don't even know. I mean, at Church, during the demo, was there any cinematics or anything as far as like detail on the character of how she was?
I think there was. I skipped in because I'm like, yo, if the gameplay is good, I'll buy the game. I'll watch it then. I couldn't even finish the demo. I mean, the fighting was. I mean, the magic was kind of cool. Like I like characters with magic games. So, but I don't know if she was unlikable. I don't know. Author, do people not like her as a main protagonist? Like, is the story bad in Forspoken?
I don't think she was written very well.
I felt like it was just
so people find a lot of commonalities of like it found it hard to root for her. You're just like you're playing this main character, and she's not an antagonist. She's the main character. She's supposed to be the hero of this thing. So she gets pulled into a magical world, and she's just constantly complaining. There's like a scene where like a character is like, there's a scene where like a character is like sort of spoilers, but spoilers. The character's father just dies, and the daughter is like your friend. By this time, like you've established like sort of a friendship, and her father just dies, and then she just like goes off on her, and it's like you're just like, I'm supposed to like this person, and just like, and it's like again, it's like this writing where it's like you don't find yourself rooting for your own character, sort of speaking. Magic wise, her one consistency plus to have for this, people say they like the combat or like the different combat elements in the sense that's new. There's magic, there's the way the spells are done, the combos are done. But when it came to like the writing and stuff, it was this it was like kind of a half-ish predictable, in the sense that like again, they just found it just, I can't really say because I've seen the snippets. It was like, again, that was when it was like she was constantly complaining of like, man, we're just like, you're given this magic power. Be happy. Be like, to do something. Be cool. Be positive. No, not hers. No, not hers.
Okay.
No, it's like I'm saying, it's like so a lot of people, like for example, there's like a lot of like people like streamers like, oh man, that's sad, her friend died, and instead of being like, oh man, my friend's dad just died, to like, blah blah, you think you have a hard, well, I got pulled to this new world and blah blah. I'm like, you just watch your friend just watch her father die, and you're complaining in front of her. Like, what are you doing?
It seems like she's definitely not a fleshed out character, or anywhere if she attempted was. She's just not written very well. It's not a good character. Like, it seems like just straight up. So yeah. Oh, I was gonna read the scores for this. So Steam, on Steam, it's a 6 out of 10. 66 on Metacritic. We all know about Metacritic, but I just wanted to read the number in general. IGN gave it a 6 out of 10, and then
Wow.
OpenCritic, they gave it a 69. So if anyone chose that, they would have lost a point.
IGN gave it a 6. Okay, that's it's bad then. So
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
interesting stuff there. Definitely not a good start for the year for Sony when it comes to IPs that, reminiscent of the console. And this is kind of my worry, right? I mean, if we're going to have, like, this isn't just like a AAA game that sucks, right? Well, I mean, in essence, it's on PC, but like, it's not one of those games where it's like, where it's a Battlefield 2042, right? Where everyone's like, this is dog shit. What the fuck? Like, fuck you, EA. This is like exclusively on PlayStation. The game sucks. Like, I was like, it's like that's not good, man. So hopefully, with the future games for Sony, that whatever they're investing in, you know what I mean. Besides Last of Us shit, like we need more. We need more as a console. You know what I mean. So I mean, I guess I would also argue the same for Microsoft. I want Gears of War. Where's Gears of War? God damn it! But speaking of PlayStation and Microsoft, Jim Ryan is trying to also get in Microsoft's way from the acquisition. And I thought this was just a funny thing to discuss and shit on Jim Ryan because I'll do that any chance I get. So according to Video Game Chronicle, it says here, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan reportedly met EU antitrust chief this week about the Microsoft Activision deal. It says it's claimed that the EU will warn Microsoft of its concerns about the acquisition. And it says here, according to the Reuters source, who declined to provide details about the discussion between PlayStation's boss and Vestager, it says, let's see, Microsoft is seeking to complete a $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, but what would be the games industry biggest deal ever by far has been met with fierce opposition from Sony and concerns from European, US, and UK regulators. It says, in what would be the latest setback in the road to completing the deal, the EU this week expected to issue Microsoft with a charge sheet setting out its concerns about the acquisition, Reuters reports. This recently said Microsoft was hoping to offer remedies to EU regulators in an attempt to avert a statement of objections and shorten the regulatory process. However, it's claimed that the EU is not open to remedies without first sending out its charge sheet. Let's see. Says among other concerns, regulators have expressed worries that the deal would significantly reduce PlayStation's ability to compete, given that it would see Microsoft gain ownership of the Call of Duty series, which Sony has called irreplaceable. In a bid to address concerns, Microsoft recently said that it offered Sony a 10-year legally enforceable contract to make each new Call of Duty game available on PlayStation the same day it comes to Xbox. I'll just end quote that. It's crazy, man, because I feel like everyone is really going at Microsoft over this deal, and it's to me it's weird because I feel like I guess I don't understand why there's so much pushback just because the Call of Duty thing I understand. Call of Duty was it was one of the 4 biggest selling games last year. So I understand that, right? But when it comes to
almost every year,
that's very true. It's actually I think it's the most profitable American-made series. But it's been around for 18 years. So like, I understand Sony saying like, "Yo, hold up," you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that, but everything else I really don't. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, there's some other characters in one that they would take in, but. I don't see Nintendo throwing their stuff at them. You know what I mean? I know Nintendo is a different breed of monster, but I guess my point is like Nintendo is focused on Nintendo shit and they understand their market. They understand who they're marketing towards. They understand the technology, what needs to be made. And they still have the fastest selling console. Like they had the fastest selling console last year. So with Sony being so like, to the EU and like trying to get in front of Microsoft's way, I don't know. I just think I guess it's just annoying to me. But what are your thoughts, Church?
Yeah, I mean, just I'll play a little bit devil's advocate when it comes to this, even though I'm a big fan of Game Pass and I want this acquisition to go through. I think the concern for Sony, Sony is a big company. but it's small compared to Microsoft, right?
Right.
They don't really have a lot of money compared to like Nike or Apple or like Microsoft. They don't have billions to spend. So when it comes to PlayStation, they make every game that's published on PlayStation. This is true for Microsoft. Like those big corporations, they take a cut. You Call of Duty, you come to my system, we take 30 or 40% of your sales. And we've seen how aggressive the percentages were when they did the Fortnite cases and all those documents got released. They're taking huge cuts from companies.
Yeah.
And Call of Duty for them made them over $1 billion, right? I think plus $1 billion every year. It's huge for Sony's bottom line. So the concern is that if you take this from their console, like it's going to affect our bottom line, because this is how we eat basically, is off of Call of Duty. And we don't have anything in the tuck right now to replace it. We gobbled up Bungie, and hoping like, okay, we got some type of shooter going on, which happens to be, not a baby shooter. It's a big deal, right? It's an ongoing. And maybe they can take that net code and make another FPS to replace Call of Duty when it happens. So they're just trying to slow down the process. And those are the concerns and arguments that they're going to try to make, the same how Call of Duty is so important. And that Microsoft would just be a juggernaut if they just take it away from it. And they're doing everything in their power to tell Sony, like, hey, you can have it for 10 years. Same day releases as Xbox. So I think the acquisition is going to go through. I think Jim Ryan is doing what any CEO would do, what the investors and stock shareholders want him to do, is to like slow down this process as long as possible, to make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Arthur?
I want Crash Bandicoot on Game Pass.
Boogla.
But seriously, but I don't know. When you started hearing the words like FTC and gaming, where I'm just sitting here like, really? Disney buys ESPN? Okay. Disney buys Marvel? Okay. Disney owns the Muppets? Okay. Hey, a gaming company bought a game company. Whoa, now. Hey, what's going on? That was like my initial like thrust reaction of it. And I mean, I'm not like, again, I want to be like Jim Ryan, but I get it. The dude's like, again, when it comes to like investors, big picture stuff, it's like, again, and when people are saying, hey, what's Jim Ryan doing about it? The answer can't be nothing. Yeah, it can't be nothing. He again, what will come from this? I don't know. I do know in a positive way, EU has a better hold on like what I think is beneficial gaming practices. Like speaking of, apples, this is about the Activision Blizzard buyout. EU was the leading thing about loot boxes and gambling to kids. That's because that's how thankfully, I don't know who was the person or people that wrote their case to the EU. I applaud you and I thank you, because they're the ones of like, look, we get tech, you don't know tech. Don't think of loot boxes this. Think of loot boxes as casino gambling machines for kids, and that's what they're doing. And poof, all of a sudden all the bells and whistles went off, and I was like, awesome, because that needs to happen. So I get why this is more happening in the EU over there, because again, in a positive way, they do have a better eye on the gaming industry restrictions, where there should be restrictions. So again, on face value, again, money, Disney buys, yes, they bought Star Wars, but for $3.5 billion, and we're like, okay, George really want to get rid of it. Because when you hear of another buyout for like nearly $70 billion, then you go, okay, these dudes paid almost double what Elon paid for Twitter. So, so I don't think what's going to come from it. I'm nervous that it's happening so fast. Like I'm reading the thing, like their report's going to happen by April 11th. Because you usually hear of like contracts where like 3 years from now the documents are released. Whereas it's like, no, the report's going to be done by April 11th, April 26th, the latest. And I'm just like, whoa, that's really quick. So I'm
money behind it, bro.
well, that's a thing. Well, because normally up
everybody's list, man.
Yeah, well, that's a weird thing. Because finalize in June, right?
It's supposed to finalize in June, but that's that's the other thing. When it comes to stuff like this, it's usually hear about it like 2 years later. It's like, oh, this would be back and forth, but I'm nervous that their report's gonna be done so quick, but I'm hopeful that it's gonna be done so quick because they're like, it just doesn't breaking the laws. I think it's just the dollar sign behind it, 79 billion versus like at the time everyone like me lost it when Star Wars got bought for single digit billions, chump change.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I don't think I'm hoping, again, that's fan, but I'm hoping that there's not really any hingent or real hurdle, the really tangible hurdle that comes from this. Also, because the other thing too, biasly, I want to see a June. Was it?
Do you think the acquisition will go through? Sorry to interrupt you.
I do.
Okay.
And biasly, I want to see an Activision Blizzard Microsoft E3. I want to see that. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda. Whoa.
I think it will. Part of me wonders, I mean, aside from Call of Duty, obviously it should be a huge cash cow, but how well they execute everything else, as far as when it comes to delivering a product, because we just talked about last episode as far as massive layoffs that just happened too. So I'm just curious to see, as far as aside from Call of Duty, for them working on these other projects, how that'll be, you know what I mean? But yeah, that will be an issue. We were talking about this was like how crazy that E3 would be. And I know Sony recently, for these past couple of E3s, they haven't been to E3. I wonder if they'll show up for that year. Probably not.
just be green and red this year. No blue.
Yeah.
But I'm also, like, as a Blizzard guy, I'm also looking for like being in good graces with with Blizzard and having a good game again. That's why that's why I didn't put Diablo 4 on my list, because like Bethesda has not had a good launch in years. I'm sorry, Blizzard. Well, they haven't either.
I know.
But Blizzard
mentioned this.
But so I wonder. So again, that's I'm saying biasly. I'm hoping for E3
will launch pretty good, right?
I mean, you have a phone, right? So I guess.
I mean, like, I don't think that game was riddled with bugs. Nobody liked the.
It was riddled with hate. It was riddled with hate. I mean, like.
Yeah, because of like the money, but in terms of like, what is a good launch to you? I guess so. I don't know how what's your barometer in terms of like.
Not having a queue of 80,000. Not having a remake game so bad they offer 100% refunds, which they did for both their flagship games.
That was like over 10 years ago, bro. That's like it happened recently. Well, yes, it happened.
I'm saying, like Overwatch 1 was their only good game recently, and I'm not really counting Immortal because they didn't make a game. It was like a mobile phone that was like mainly towards the Chinese market. That it was just openly marketed for that.
Overwatch 2 launched pretty well, right? I mean, they had service issues
after a week or two.
I mean, but yeah,
that's pretty fast considering.
That's pretty fast, bro. Like, we all knew the game was going to be fixed, right?
Like, well, that's because I'm not contempt. I'm sorry if I call me picky. Look, sorry if you call me picky. I like having game work at launch.
That hasn't happened for almost every single console for the past 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks, but this is a model. This isn't even like, oh, we're just having problems with the game. Like, half of this stuff for that doesn't work. It's literally a business model. You know what I mean? Play and patch later. You know what I mean? So patch later. I hate it too. No, I hate it too. Yeah. And I agree with you. I would just like to fucking work once I buy it and I download it or whatever the case may be. I think to your point though, Arthur, if Diablo 4 is a failure launch, I feel like they're officially going to lose the trust for the rest of players.
So
because
define failure, so like I can follow you guys. Like, what does it not need to do?
So like Babylon 5, don't Babylon 5 us, or what was it called? Babylon 1. What was that game that was so awful last year?
Is that the Platinum Games that closed down the Babylon 1?
Yeah, don't Babylon us. Or like you said before.
Like again, being playable, being playable, playable launch, and I want to see like a 80,000 queue.
That's not fairly to me, but continue.
Okay, I mean, like, release date.
If they fix it in a couple of days, right? Because I played Overwatch 2
And
first week, right? It took a
Yeah.
while to get in, but they patched the queues very quickly, and it hasn't been a problem since. Since they fixed it. So
well, and the other thing too with Blizzard is like, so because the other thing because when it comes to like, for me, like why a lot of people hate Immortal is you say you never played a Diablo game. Okay, well, like fine, that's like
Yeah.
Hey, Uncharted 4 is kind of bad, but you never played any other Uncharted game. And the thing with here's the thing about Blizzard too, their company is a PC company. They eventually went to console, and to release a game at their own con, this wasn't E3, it was at BlizzCon, and to say, oh, you guys have phones, right? It's like that's like Microsoft, the next E3 saying this is coming to Microsoft saying this is coming to phone only. We're like, you have a PC, we all, you guys have PCs and Xbox like this, but again, this new trend, because I think we all have to a point you can see if Overwatch is the asterisk on my list, but Cyberpunk, Fallout 76, Halo, Battlefield, we've seen the AAAs fail the past 2 years. So again, that's why I've been turned so much onto Game Pass and Indie, because I don't have to deal with this like Stockholm syndrome a lot of people have of, oh, my game doesn't work on launch. Oh well, I'm like, that's why I'm trying the Game Pass, because I don't have to pay for a face value, and I don't have this new standard like Forspoken, not Forspoken. Forspoken's like bad but playable. Not unplayable.
This is a bad game.
Yeah,
it works. It just sucks.
So like a lot of people are like, so when people are used to like, oh, I guess I gotta wait 4 more days until this game to work. I'm not. Like, I want to play a game when they tell me to play it. Like, sorry, it's like reverse, games and movies. Oh, sorry guys, this movie's not coming out till next week. People would lose their minds. So like, why people we're just getting more used to like, yep, I guess I'll come back in 4 days. That's why it's turned me on to like Game Pass and Indie, away from AAA games. Like, I'm done pre-ordering. I'm just like, nah, it's a release date, I guess. Maybe.
Are you not going to pre-order Dead Island 2?
Maybe. That might be my one thing. Only because that was from ground up.
Well,
the thing is, because they were upfront. That one interview after that, it wasn't even Gamescom. It was Gamescom. When they said upfront, this is a ground up scrap, clean slate of a game. That's what made me hopeful. If they just say, hey, we've actually held on to the game for 8 years, I'm like, no, I don't want that.
Exactly.
So when it comes to Diablo, dude, these aren't just any games they flopped. Like Halo Infinite was bad, but Halo Infinite wasn't issuing. It was so bad they offered 100% refunds. Blizzard did that with the remake of their flagship game, Warcraft 3. It's like picture the Master Chief Edition, but it really is so bad, 100% refunds.
I just argue. To me, I feel like that's not fair, because it's over a decade ago. Like, yes, that was terrible, but I think to hold that against them for 2023, I don't think that's fair.
Well, they haven't had a big good game. Like they haven't had a good launch to make me be kind of excited for Blizzard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I think when it comes to queue stuff, like large queues, things like that, I feel like this is the nature of technology. Like things are going to clog up. Things are going to have to get patched. Things are going to have to get fixed. Like this happens. But when it comes to things that should be in the game that aren't, or just things that are just deteriorating, like for example, like everything that happened with Battlefield 2042, completely inexcusable. You know what I mean? On many levels, right?
What's a scoreboard?
Like that is completely inexcusable, and they want to win back. People say, "Oh, it's almost ready, or it's on Game Pass." I'm like, "No, fuck that." So
who cares?
so I agree with you in that regard. As far as that's the shit that I'm like, no, absolutely not. So for DS, but I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, I hope it goes well because it's on my fantasy card. So I want to transition to another topic here. This one's going to be a little heavy, but I just wanted us to talk about it because I know you guys are big fans of High on Life. Given the situation, this is going to change a lot of things with that game, that series, and obviously with the Rick and Morty as well. But this is Kotaku. I hope this is a
particular article.
I hope it's a good article versus the bullshit that we read last year. All right, so it says here, Rick and Morty creator leaves studio behind 2022's biggest Game Pass launch after allegations. It says High on Life creator, maker of Squanch Games, reveals co-founder left last week. Justin Roiland is leaving Squanch Games It's the month after the comedic shooter High on Life became 2022's most popular Xbox Game Pass launch. The studio co-founder who voices many of High on Life's characters is currently facing 2 felony domestic abuse charges from 2020. It says Squatch Games announced the news late Tuesday, shortly after Adult Swim revealed that it was dropping Roiland from Rick and Morty as well. But the CEO's resignation apparently actually occurred over a week ago on January 16th, 4 days after the news of the domestic abuse charges first surfaced, which Roiland pled not guilty to. It says in 3 days after Kotaku first reported on a 2018 lawsuit accusing the studio of workplace harassment and discrimination, in which it settled in 2019. I'll read this and we can talk about it. It says here, in quote, the passionate team at Squanch will keep developing games as we know our fans will love while continuing to support and improve High on Life. And quote, the studio tweeted yesterday. Squanch Games did not immediately respond to a request for comment on why Roiland resigned, whether it was aware of any other allegations related to him or the studio, and whether he still holds any equity in Squanch, unquote. Church, I wanted to throw this to you because I we've talked about High on Life before and how great that game, how just really fun and interesting and different that it was. And obviously how the minds of Rick and Morty was a part of it, doing the voices and whatnot, and given this crazy stuff going on. I mean, what are your thoughts on that situation, and what are your thoughts on the potential future of High on Life, and I mean, shit, even Rick and Morty?
At this point, I mean, I think I haven't looked into the allegations to that much, but if we take it at face value, I mean, I think it's good if he is like beating up his wife or beating up people just because there should be justice brought to that,
Yeah.
Nobody should get away with that.
Yeah.
I kind of, but at the same time, I really don't care. Like I'm not really too much caught up in like a lot of celebrity gossip or like when it comes to art, if like the creator is bad, like does that affect me emotionally? People have this, feelings towards like what's a big popular one? I think it's like Harry Potter, or whatever. And they'll be like, they feel bad if we read a book they read as a kid because of this person like it. I'm just not that type of person. Like it's not that deep to me.
You can separate the two.
Yeah, I can separate the two, but it's also like I got my own life to live, man. Like I'm not for people committing domestic abuse and them not getting punished for it. Like, yeah, of course I want that to happen, but I'm not invested into the lives of others that's outside of mine or the people I care about, the loved ones I can reach and talk to. Like, I don't know this man personally. I don't know his wife personally. At the end of the day, like that's not how I operate. In terms of the video games, I mean, if the game will suffer, right? Because, he's an amazing talent. Rick and Morty is very successful. The voice acting in the game is really great. So trying to find somebody to replace that is going to be a challenge. And if they can't, it's just going to fail. And that's just kind of the nature of it. I mean, you reap what you sow. It sucks that the studio will have to suffer and all the people that worked on the game because of his actions,
Right.
But if he has to be brought to justice for it, then he has to be brought to justice for it.
Yeah.
That's how kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't think I can, I don't know, because the High on Life, the voice acting is so much a part of that game and the writing itself.
Right.
It's an okay shoot 'em up type of game mechanic at best. If it doesn't have that element, it's just not for me at that point.
What are your thoughts, Arthur?
I don't really have, I mean, I'm neutral on this, like, 'cause I don't really have a dog in the fight. I haven't played High on Life yet, and I never watched Rick and Morty. I'm one of those people who are like, I'm one of those people when like a million people tell me to watch something and won't shut up about it. It makes me want to not watch it more. Like I've yet to read the Harry Potter books, just because people just wouldn't shut up about it. And then with Rick and Morty,
how dare you tell me of a good thing that I might love?
Well, it just when people just myself.
I don't want you.
It's like when people are talking about it, people are talking about they just discovered.
Yeah.
People are talking about Rick and Morty. Like is this profaned? Like we just found life on Mars thing. It was like, oh, cool, it's good. I'll watch it when I watch it. Right? It's like, hey, really? Hey guys, real talk. You want me to watch something? give me your Hulu password, then maybe I'll watch it. But I'm not gonna make an effort or pay money to watch something that people won't shut up about. So
I'm gonna get
I still watch. Well, because people, it's just like, because this is how it goes.
Never give author recommendations.
Yeah,
Well,
do not read the
it's-
Instagram comments or YouTube comments. It's gonna go crazy.
Well, it's because like it's because when you tell people you don't watch Rick and Morty, they look you like, you don't like comedy. Oh, you don't like jokes? Then I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, get over yourself. Well, I will say this: the average Rick and Morty fandom, there's an ego there. There is absolutely an ego behind Rick and Morty fans compared to everyone else. So that's mainly that's that ego. That's the turn away. Like, you know what? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh man, you should try this. Yeah. Like, yeah. Versus like Rick and Morty, like, oh, this guy doesn't like jokes. Hey guys, everyone in the bar, this guy doesn't like jokes. Like that's like that's the vibe I get from like the average like Rick and Morty diehard. But so with this, I mean, if everything comes out, throw the book at him. In fact, to stay on like the comedy that is Rick and Morty, if it all goes down, he gets the book thrown at him. I would love, like, let's say there's a High on Life 2, I would love for them just to roast him, just because I think I wouldn't put it past that type of dark comedy that is sort of synonymous with that team. Where if you're like, let's say you're playing High on Life 2. I'm like, hey, this is me. Whoa, this is me. Hey, I have a different voice. Man, the other guy that sounded like me, he's a real douchebag, right? I mean, like, I wouldn't put that line or that type of thing beyond the team in, like, let's say a sequel or something like that. That's to a point, everyone has their first impressions. That was the first thing that went through my mind, is if he gets a book thrown at him, dude, they're absolutely going to roast him if there's a sequel. That's what I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, to me,
are the charges like, what is he, just like slap his wife? What is it like?
There's one that's like holding someone against their will, almost like a prisoner, like imprisonment. And then there's like, there's domestic abuse of violence. You know what I mean? I think there's actually he was saying some crazy stuff too, I guess. I think it was screenshotted and shared on the internet, but yeah, I mean,
Well, I was gonna say, careful, don't use Rihanna as an example, because that means he'll have sellout concerts in 2 years.
That's true.
I'm just saying, the dude still sells out concerts.
I don't want to control. I guess when it comes to these topics, and this is why I don't like video game journalism a lot lately too, because it focuses more on the politics of things and who's morally right or wrong, instead of just like actual gaming news. But do these if he does this time, is there any redemption for a person? Or if you do something wrong, like, are we allowed to enjoy the content again? I mean, if you pay, if you do the time, like, can you come out on this other side clean? Or
so here's my thing. Let me
watching Rick and Morty again.
Yeah. Well, let me finish my thought.
Okay,
so as far as when it comes to, in my mind, everyone has, people make mistakes, but people need to be held accountable, right? And then as far as for, redemption, and if you want to watch certain content, that's up to the fan, right? For me, it's very different, where it's like, I don't want to watch another episode of the Cosbys. That's me. Some people do. I don't want to listen to the R. Kelly song. Some people do. When it comes to High on Life and Rick and Morty, I guess my sadness comes in when it affects the team, like you said. You know what I mean? As far as these people's jobs, because this person made very poor decisions that affects a lot of people. So my thing is just that it's upsetting, where we have this huge, it's disappointing, obviously, if these things are in fact true. And then you do have, this is kind of like the industry game, where we don't even know if confirmed that it happened, but because it's out there in the wild, these companies have to just let people go. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's not a moral thing, it's a business thing for them. So that just sucks in its entirety. But yeah, my main disappointment is just like, that damn, like, we had a really dope IP, and then for Rick and Morty, while I do understand, Arthur's point on, like, certain people are just super annoying when as far as like, watch the show, it has been one of the, it's a great show. You know what I mean? It's a great show. There's a reason why it's been on for as long as it has. It's won Emmy awards. Like it's a very good show. It's a well written show. So it sucks to have those things close. You know, it sucks when you have really talented people and the certain mistakes that they make there can be redemption, the accountability just really fucks up a lot of shit. You know, it's like I think of Louis C.K. Like you're starting to see Louis C.K. more on podcasts and stuff. You know, and he fucked up. You know, and he admitted he fucked up. You know, and he got buried for a little bit, but you know. He's coming back around because he's trying to redeem himself, yada yada. I don't know what's going to happen with this Justin Roiland guy, but yeah, I guess my main thing is just it sucks when you have something that's important as high in life, and shit like this happens. So
yeah, it does suck because it was a game that everybody saw got announced that people were looking forward to and generally liked when he came out. So like a sequel or a next project was definitely on the dock.
Right,
and now
contracts were gonna be like, yo, let's sign this next thing. You know what I mean? Like exactly.
Now it's a big old question mark. You know.
Yeah.
So
I was like, yo.
I have a question based on the quality of the game. So this is like the most played Xbox Game Pass game right now, or at least the time of this article.
Sure.
I mean, do you think in the background this might unintentionally hurt its like potential any like nominations that might be given?
No. I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't. I feel like, there's like a game award is like for a team,
Right.
I feel like team is more than just one person. So I wouldn't discredit it. You can still honor the team and the people that went behind everything. That's my thoughts, man.
I agree too.
The only thing is, I think there might be like a statement of like, let's say this game is a contender for Game of the Year, because I haven't played it by for nothing but just great things. I've heard nothing but everything reviews. So let's say it's a contender for Game of the Year, and it's like, and the internet's the internet, and it's like, oh, that game, but the guy, and blah blah blah. If anything, there might lead to like I'm picturing it might like, let's say it gets a Game of the Year nod or nomination. I don't know if they might do a statement or something like that, because like Joel's saying, it's a team. Like this isn't like yes, it's just unfortunate he was like the voices behind that was the main thing behind the game, the script and his voice. But games, like movies, game credits are not notorious for being short.
Yeah. Definitely. I think I'm gonna skip to the last one, the Hogwarts Legacy one. I feel like we don't really need to cover it. But we do need to cover this news when it comes to 343. I don't have an article to read, but just as far as like an open table situation. So there's an article, or not an article, but there is some news that came across that basically confirmed that 343 will continue to work on Halo games. I mean, where do we start from here?
I got this.
Okay,
bro.
Okay.
Well, okay. Let me ask the question. I just want a quick answer from you guys, if you don't mind,
Sure.
and then I'll give you my thoughts. Do you guys believe that 343 is working on the next Halo game, Dro?
Yes.
Arthur?
I haven't played the story, so I don't even know. Like,
I mean, do you think the studio is going to make the next Halo game from this announcement?
Oh yeah. The thing is, so yes, I mean,
okay. So
they are.
They're not, man. They're not going. This is a lie. They've been lying about Halo Infinite since the release of the trailer of 2019. All right, they had all the offers. It's too big of a flop, right? They replaced the head of 343. The guy that came in to save 343, he's lost. They just laid off a bunch of people. And before they even laid off a bunch of people, they lost the head game designer, the head multiplayer designer, the art director, a bunch of talent, and the people of 343 have left. So it's not even the same team, but it's like it's a skeleton of a crew. This person that got nominated has to say it because they have shareholders. Hey, we're gonna bring it. We're gonna make the next game. It's gonna be perfect. I don't think Microsoft is gonna move that way. I think this is all this bullshit, man. Like they're not gonna like, why would you let them make the next game?
Yeah,
I'm not even mad.
The people they cut from the team all the writers for single player. The only people that's left on the team was a multiplayer down for 343. So in terms of DLC for a campaign, like we can put that on the back burner. We're not gonna get that for a couple of years. Like even if they want to continue it, I don't believe the tweet. They've they tweeted so many things about this IP for the last couple of years, and there's been lies after lies, disappointment after disappointment.
Yeah.
And this is just another tweet in that series, man. So it's bullshit. The line to our face again. Okay, Epstein's alive. I don't.
Dude, you talk about lies. Like when you say the people that got rid of the people that got rid of were in charge of the story. I didn't even like them. One of the reasons I was already turned off from this game is I started seeing more and more of the story, and I'm like, wait, I remember how the last Halo ended. So when I'm looking at this story, I'm like, that's not the same story.
Yeah.
And then when you look it up, they're like, oh, it's in all the journals you find. Oh, because you talk about continuation of like Last of Us 1 and 2 story. At least you got a sequel. This was like, oh, that ending is in all the journals you find around. This is a whole new game. Then what are you doing?
Yeah, that's crazy. That is ridiculous.
I love the ending to Halo 5. I know like the game itself, like there's a lot of things people like, but the ending of the AI is going rogue and the UNSC, that was an ending. I'm like, let's go Halo. Like, and then well, because like for me, the game ditched it made me happy for the new game. I was like, oh man, like we're gonna verse the AI. Is it gonna be like is this a UNSC
like what's happening?
Weird mech civil war within the UNSC, and then poof, we never got the story.
Nope,
it's gone.
Dropped.
Yeah. So, I get it. Whether this is true that 343 is carrying, if so, it's like I'm not looking forward to Halo. I'm ready, like even if it's not in game, like whatever. Even if it's like the next Halo gets announced for Game Pass, I'm like, I'm not downloading it day one. I'm waiting for the reviews to come out.
I mean, I'll clarify. Maybe 343 would still be the umbrella, but I guarantee the huge outsourcing of this project would be to a different studio. Like,
it's like the new
maybe 343 and somebody else, and they're just churning under this because they in charge of Halo, quote unquote. But they're not making the next game.
Girl, what's the Mass Effect company that starts with the B? The shell itself. BioWare. There you go. It's BioWare. It's like BioWare. It's like BioWare in the sense that 343 is 343 by name, but not by soul, not by talent, not by individuals, not by driving force.
The same prestige.
Yeah.
As BioWare.
But the thing is, like for me, it's like it's a skeleton of its former self. I didn't like its former self, so I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
It's funny because like I would feel a way if Phil Spencer, he had like a speech or something talking about like how great the next Halo game is, or talking about 343. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I love Phil Spencer, but I'm like, don't bullshit me. You know what I mean? It's like, how bad they fucked up. Like the for the the biggest mascot for the console, like don't bullshit me. You know what I mean? Because like I'll be really mad if he tries to bullshit his fan base when it comes to talking about 343 or talking about Halo Infinite. I hope it's bullshit, Church. You know what I mean? I hope if they change their mind and say, you know what? Fuck that. You know what I mean? Like I could see that as well, where they have a meeting and they're like, no, we can't have them do anything else.
Yeah, the Halo community's in a tough spot. I mean, I won't say any YouTubers' names, but I followed like the Halo community, especially when Infinite came out. I had like a go-to couple YouTuber people that like that's the game they're covering. You know how people do it.
Yeah,
and they gave up on it. They made videos of like, yo, I'm no longer calling Halo. They switched over to Elden Ring. Some switched over to Apex. It's just there's not an audience for the coverage anymore for them to make the money off of daily videos. And it's just not getting the traction anymore, and the content's just not there, especially for a game that's live service. Which is not a live service. It doesn't need to be, but it's the route they chose to take, and it's kind of terrible. We saw the preview of season 3. I mean, I think even with the release of the content, they are cutting staff to a point where they're releasing stuff early. Like, oh, we got the Forge, browse server kind of stuff. Like, oh, we can browse like Forge maps, and those people left their jobs. Like, oh, they're never gonna update it again. They're just releasing stuff to get it done, and it's in a poor state, man.
I give you props for keeping up what season it's on.
Oh yes, it's a winter season right now. Season 3 starts in like March, bro. So like,
Dude, I haven't. I feel bad. I feel bad for Halo. Like, I just like, I mean, it's like more than one reason why that game failed. You know, we talked about many times. So it's like the fact that 343 Microsoft confirming that 343 is going to keep making Halo. That's a bold statement to make. And then next time they appear anywhere like at E3 or something like that, they have to address the elephant in the room. They have to address the
They're going to
failure.
be booed.
Bro,
Like, that's how bad this shit is. They will be booed
Like
during an E3.
How many more E3s are like
sell this again? Like it's gonna be a good Halo game. What are they gonna say,
like
bro?
Right.
what can they like? I'm saying like what can they do? Like I'm not even know what they could do to fix this.
Bro,
Because like
give it to another studio. Like
Yeah.
that's the only way other
They
people. I
have
mean,
to.
okay, maybe that's my opinion, but that's the only way people are gonna have faith, man. If this Activision Blizzard deal goes through, there's too much talent over there in first-person shooters to like let. Why are we keeping 343 around?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm with you, man. Give it to Id. Give it to Id.
bro.
they know they're green guys.
The hero, Jason, he left. The hero of Halo,
Hmm.
he left. He's gone. Who's making the next Halo game if not the guy that was the savior? Like they got rid of him. Who is there to make it?
Right.
There's no.
Yeah.
Maybe, hey, maybe
No, I
they
feel
might
you,
have
bro.
some shocking
I feel
news
you.
and be like, the director of the show might write the next Halo game.
Bro, I'll buy that game.
All
If the
helmets
director was
off.
like, yo, I'm stepping in. I'm like, yo, this game is about to be so wacky. Let's do it.
Jonathan Murphy.
Dude, Halo, the Master Chief's gonna have his arm off every episode. You're gonna have a God of War like scene of you're mashing O with the alien, just clapping cheeks, just getting XP.
All right, he's like, it's
we all remember that.
person
We all remember
now.
that
It's not even first
DLC.
person.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that'd be funny. The new head writer of the next Halo game, the guy that wrote the Halo show.
It's just, I think it's just ballsy as fuck for them to say that they're gonna make the next game when they got rid of all their head writers and directors.
right.
Like, okay,
Who's gonna make it?
okay, I believe you.
Splendid. Yeah, like, what the
I
fuck?
believe you, bro. Who's making it? Like, just I just want to meet the team. Like, well, that's all.
Yeah, it's like, can we have a conversation? Yeah,
Hey,
that's
Jarrell,
crazy, bro.
I will say one thing. One, you said, Church is not how this is. This is, and everyone's agreed, this is Xbox's mascot. One sort of asterisk positive to the last Kotaku article is they listed in the article Major Nelson as Xbox's human mascot.
Oh, nice.
Larry Harb. or Larry Herb as the Xbox's like quote unquote human mascot. That's why for context it was like Arthur's reading that Kotaku article about why this guy's being arrested for domestic abuse. I'm just like having this weird smiley grin on my face. It's because I came across the line. The human mascot for Xbox was Major Nelson, which I thought was funny.
That's funny.
Have Major Nelson be the next Master Chief.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that might fix it.
Bro.
All right. Well, we are about at the close here for Gamers for Life podcast. A long one at that, but a good one at that. Of course, I want to thank my gaming brothers here, Arthur, and always, and good old Church, man. Thanks for being on another episode with us.
Man, thanks for having me. It's always been fun. I love listening to you guys and your thoughts on the industry. I mean, it's always a good time. You guys are always welcoming, and I enjoy myself, man. So
Appreciate it.
Not even COVID will stop us.
no, man, you're a fucking trooper.
All right, guys. Well, we're signing off here. We will see you guys next week.